Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. But guys, our team builder here for week 4 of the NPA. The Minnesota Vikavolts are taking on TheXseption and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. It is about to go down after a crazy week last week, man. Probably one of the craziest matches we've ever had. So if you didn't see that, go check it out because you don't want to miss it. It was pretty nuts. But this week we had a face-off against TheXseption. He's got off to a tough start this season. He's a pretty good battler though. He's 0-3, -11 differential, putting him at the bottom of the league, but he does have a very powerful rain team, so you got to be careful there, man. Always tricky when you face off against weather teams. Luckily, we have our own weather, and we have a couple Pokemon that really stand out against him, so I like our matchup, but again, you can't really take anything for granted, especially, you know, against a rain team. These things can be really powerful, because all it takes is Swift Swim to get up, and Swampert to click Power Punch, and then it just steamrolls you, as we've seen before in some of my matches. So, let's talk about his team, kind of what I think he's going to bring, and then I'll talk about my team, what I'm bringing, and so on and so forth. Match will be up tomorrow, as always. So, he's got the Thundurus Incarnate, which sits at 111 base speed. It's an incredibly hard-hitting Pokemon, most known for nasty plotting. I think he's got a tough situation though, because he does have to kind of choose some different moves. Like, is he gonna run HP Ice? Is he gonna run HP Flying? I don't know, but nevertheless, you know, he's probably gonna have like Volt Switch or Thunderbolt, and he could have like Thunder Wave if he's worried about like a setup sweeper. He could try to paralyze me. Obviously, doesn't get Prankster. Could also have Defiant if I believe it gets Defiant if he wants to kind of counter Defog or something like that. So otherwise, you know, something to be careful of. Pelipper, which I think was his first overall pick, obviously setting Rain. That's primarily what it does, but it does run Choice Scarfs. It can be Specs. It gets Hurricane, obviously 100% accurate in the rain. U-Turn, Scald, and Defog are its primary uses there. Kingdra, obviously a very fearsome Rain Sweeper. In rain, it doubles its speed. It hits really hard with its Water-type moves. It can also run the Crit set, which is Scope, Lens, Draco Meteors with Focus Energy. That's always really scary. It's just a really hard-hitting offensive Pokemon, so you always got to be careful there. He's got the Bronzong, which is a Steel type with Levitate or Heat Proof. I'm expecting Levitate in this match, to be perfectly honest, because of I don't think he needs the Heat Proof, but nevertheless, just his Stealth Rock Setter, just a really, really bulky Pokemon, and probably one of the best tier 4 Pokemon. I personally love Bronzong. I loved having it on my team. It's just so good and so reliable every single week, and it's one of his main ways to deal with our Alolan Ninetales. As you can see, he's got a big Freeze Dry weakness, which I love. So definitely expect Bronzong to be coming. Zoroark is one of those wildcard Pokemon that you got to be really careful about because it can disguise itself and be really difficult to deal with because you don't really know. And in Draft League battles, like one turn can make a huge difference in a battle. So if you kind of predict wrong and think it's something else and it's Zoroark and then he hits you with a flamethrower or, you know, something like that, it can definitely mess you up. So I'm kind of hoping he just doesn't bring Zoroark because it's one of those Pokemon that I just don't want to even have to think about because it can be really difficult. He's got the Togedemaru, which I don't really think is too big of a concern. Obviously, it's really good against electric types, and it can take some, you know, some pretty big hits. This could be a way for him to deal with like a Alolan Ninetales, you know what I mean? Like I don't anticipate it, but it could be one of the ways he deals with it. You know, it also can take hits from Mawile, so maybe he does think Togedemaru has a good matchup. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say, but it's really just like kind of a bulky, somewhat bulky. It's not even that bulky. Electric and Steel type, good typing, but it just doesn't really do much, and it's got a couple big weaknesses. Mega Swampert, as we all know, is just really effective in rain, of course. With the rain boost, it doubles its speed. It hits really, really hard with an incredible attack stat. It's got great natural bulk and only that one weakness to grass type, so that makes Mega Swampert just a huge threat to take down, and if you don't have the proper switch-ins for it and you can't offensively check it and it's able to get up the weather, it can be really, really difficult to deal with. It's pretty good against my team, too. He's got the Shaman, which I love the little hedgehog. Shaman is just a really bulky grass type, naturally 100 across the board, so that allows it to hit pretty hard. It can Leech Seed, it can, you know, Seed Flare, it can Dazzling Gleam and Earth Power. You can run like an offensive set. So that's pretty cool. He's got the Kabutops, which is his Rapid Spinner, and also a Swift Swim kind of abuser here, so 3 Swift Swimmers. So that obviously is just really fast in rain and hits pretty hard, paired really nicely with the Z moves. Snorlax, which is something that I think he could bring, because it's really his only way to deal with Victini outside of rain is like a thick fat Snorlax. So I'm really expecting thick fat Snorlax in this match. You know, it's just a really bulky Pokemon, and it takes away the berry, which is nice, and I don't really have to worry about that, but I do think thick fat Snorlax is a bring, and like I looked and there's just no way for Victini to beat it, so like to really run through it, so I think he's gonna bring it. And then Heracross is just a huge wall breaker. Like Heracross can really rip through teams if they're not prepared. You know, it's a great choice scarfer with Moxie. He can also be like a gut status absorber and just hit really hard, so he's got a lot of options there, and he's got a lot of threats, so we do have to be really careful of a lot of things. But I'm expecting the Pelipper, I'm expecting rain. Pelipper, Thunderous, Bronzong, Snorlax, 100%. I think Swampert will come, and then maybe Shaman. I actually, after discussing it with you guys, I actually do feel like Togedemaru isn't that bad of a matchup. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, I think it has some viability, but at the same time, I don't know if he would chance bring it because I don't think it's like that good of a Pokemon. So I always tend to want to bring the better Pokemon when I'm on the fence between a niche, maybe good Pokemon versus like an overall better Pokemon. I usually tend to lean towards the overall better Pokemon just because, you know, when you don't know exactly what 6 your opponent's going to bring, you can only guess. So let's talk about our team, what I'm going to bring, and so on and so forth. Obviously, Ninetales. First thing I wrote down when I started building this team is Ninetales. Incredible against him, man. Freeze Dry just eliminates so many things. It destroys a lot. I've got the Nasty Plot Life Orb there, so we are an offensive Ninetales. I think this is actually the first week we're bringing it, and I'm not even bringing, you know, like the defensive Veil set. But this thing is designed to take down Bronzong. I can Nasty Plot and then Dark Pulse the Bronzong, and we do a tremendous amount if he's not super specially defensive. Hail does chip away, so we got that working for us. Got to get a little bit of damage on Bronzong, but otherwise we can really rip through him. And, you know, he's not going to be able to take repeated switch-ins, so if I'm able to get like a Nasty Plot up, which shouldn't be impossible to do, and then just start hitting Dark Pulses, we can really wreck through his team. Freeze Dry obviously just matches up so well. Kingdra, Pelipper, Swampert, all of them do not want to take a Freeze Dry. So this is where I feel like Togedemaru could be a switch-in because it does take Moonblast and Ice moves, which I'm not carrying. The Moonblast, I had Blizzard on here, but I switched with Aurora Veil. I feel like Aurora Veil just gives better team support and gives 5 turns of him having a hard time against me, so I kind of like that. And most importantly, what Ninetales does for me is it gives me a Pokemon that can switch in 100% of the time if rain is up and change the weather right away. So if Swampert is causing me problems, I just bring in Ninetales, rain's gone, and then he has to switch out because I knock him out in one shot. That could give me an opportunity to Nasty Plot, predicting the Bronzong switch in and things like that. So we have a couple different options there, so I really like that. We've got our Mega Mawile here. The Tooth Fairy is back after a dominating performance last week, picking up 3 kills while it was burned, dude, which was pretty nuts. Knockoff, Sucker Punch, Play Rough, Swords Dance, Intimidate as always. Very bulky set, a lot of HP, a lot of attack. I like Knockoff and Sucker Punch this week. Knockoff because I feel like if Bronzong kills something, or if like I get this in against Bronzong, which I don't think is hard to do, I can just click Knockoff, and he has like no solid switches to a Knockoff, you know, which I really like. Play Rough obviously just kind of rips through him. If I get a Swords Dance up and I can click Sucker Punch a few times, I don't really think he has much answers to that. Always got to be careful of Substitute, which is something that's always scary, but nevertheless, you know, Tooth Fairy really looks like it can body his team, and it's just such a strong Pokemon. So not much else to say there. I just feel like it's pretty straightforward what we're gonna do. Just gotta be really careful of Substitute as always, because I don't want to get caught. So far so good though. My opponents have been bringing Substitute against me, and I haven't fallen for it. I'm very I always lean on the side of caution. I always try to think many turns ahead and try to think of what happens if my opponent gets Substitute up. So I usually go for the offensive move instead of the Sucker Punch, but you know, it's nice to have that in our back pocket in case we need it. We've got our Bubbles here. Bubbles rocking that Swift Swim. You would think I'm running Water Absorb with him having a rain team, but I actually like Swift Swim this week. I don't really feel like there's a ton of need for him to click a water move most of the time. I feel like Earthquake or Ice Punch is most of the time what he's gonna do. But I like having Swift Swim because in rain I'm actually faster than a lot of things. You know, having the immunity would be nice, but I do like the ability to Swift Swim. Stealth Rock, Grass Knot, Scald, Icy Wind. Gotta get those rocks up early for sure. Grass Knot's looking nice for Swampert. Scald's looking good for a couple things. Icy Wind just for speed control because I feel like that's really important. Getting a Scald burn on something like the Snorlax would be super duper clutch, and we are fully physically defensive, so I'm going to be able to take a lot of hits. This is a good way to kind of take on the Swampert relatively well, switching to Bronzong pretty easily. You know, I could take a couple hits from a couple different things, so pretty straightforward though. We've got our Earhart here, Salamence, bring in the Yachi Berry, so kind of a funky set though, but I felt like Yachi was really good, because I felt like if I get a Dragon Dance up, and I've weakened his team a little bit, this thing just wins. I've got Sunny Day on there as a tech move because I really didn't feel like I needed another move. I could have thrown Dragon Claw on there, but I always, with weather, you always want to be super safe. But Intimidate Yachi Berry allows us to take, you know, Swampert's Ice Punch. It allows us to take Kingdra, going for Ice Beam. It allows us to take, I mean, he could Draco, but I feel like Ice Beam is such an easier play. It allows us to, if Thundurus is carrying HP Ice, which it very well could be, we can take that HP Ice. I think it gets Grass Knot. That is definitely something I want to check. Let me just double check here. Thundurus, let me see if it gets Grass Knot. That's something I want to check, because then it's gonna run HP Ice most likely. Even though Thunderbolt actually does the same, I think. But does it get Grass Knot? It does get Grass Knot, so we do have to be careful there. So it's not like a hidden power situation. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, Outrage runs through his team. He doesn't have a fairy type, so Crunch and Outrage. Like, I didn't feel like I needed anything else besides Outrage. I really felt like once I get a Dragon Dance out, we just click Outrage. I mean, he does have the Togepi D, but again, not really something that I think is super likely that he brings. This set I really like. I was pretty stoked about making this set. It's a Silvally Grass, which is kind of weird. I was trying to think of what made the most sense against him, and Steel kind of looked good, Ground had some viability, but I actually settled on Grass. I felt like Grass was pretty cool because it shuts down the Shaman pretty much no matter what he does. Max HP, max special attack for the most part with a little bit of speed. Generally max. But I love this thing because it outspeeds max speed modest Pelipper, so we're generally gonna outspeed that thing. I could Thunderbolt it. We're gonna be able to take really anything from the Thundurus. Like, he probably doesn't run HP Ice if he has Thunderbolt, because I guess it does the same to Salamence. So Thunderbolt, Grass Knot, like, unless he has HP Flying on Thundurus, which I don't think he's gonna bring. Like, he could. If he, like, I guess if he's worried about Silvally, he could bring it. I don't know if he brings HP Flying. So if he doesn't, like, we shut it down, which is really cool, and I can Ice Beam it. You know, we've got, we could take on a little bit from the Kingdra there, and generally just being kind of bulky is nice. So we could take on a lot of different things, Kabutops for the most part, you know what I mean? So I really like this. It's a great switch into Swampert, and again, Grass Pledge is cool, man. I didn't have to run the, I could run like a special one. I didn't have to run multi-attack. I could just run Grass Pledge, which I thought was pretty neat. Not something you see very often. And then last but not least is Virizion. I'll bring that Fightinium Z, Z user here, Swords Dance, Close Combat, Leaf Blade, Stone Edge. Pretty straightforward stuff, man. You know, this thing is just designed outspeed, Zoroark, clicks Swords Dance on a couple different things, and just close combats away. This is one of my ways to get rid of the Snorlax, because that thing's a problem, but he really doesn't have a switch into a +2 close combat. Like, yeah, he's got Pelipper, and yeah, he's got Thundurus, but they're not going to take the hit if rocks are up, you know? So I went with Fighting Z instead of Stone Edge, Rocky MZ, because I just felt like that extra power is super important, and again, Leaf Blade is really nice too, so, you know, that'll hit a couple things really nicely, but it just helps me break down things like Shaman. He could have, like, you know, Dazzling Gleam or whatever, but nevertheless, I feel like we got the right team here. So definitely excited about this one. We've got some big threats though. Like, don't get me wrong, that Thundurus is a problem. Rain is always an issue. I think I can mitigate the rain relatively well, but he's got some big threats there. So we'll do our best to try to come up with a W. I really want to win this one. 4-0 would be a great start, and I'm not going to settle for anything less. So let's make it happen. Vikavolts, let's do it. Hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you're new. Match goes up tomorrow. My name is Dan. I also go by aDrive, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace. Thanks so much for checking out my last video. If you like that one, you'll definitely like this one, and be sure to subscribe for more as I post Pokemon videos every single day.